y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taya and this is Taya's Turning Pages. So, a long time no speak. I know that you guys just got a video from me a couple of days ago. This is actually my first time sitting down to film a booktube video in quite a while. I haven't been super motivated to read or keep up with reading, or really keeping up with my booktube channel and Bookstagram, which is not good because I really miss y'all. I really want to get back into the swing of things, but like I've alluded to in other videos, child, my mental health plummeting. Can you say plummeting? But I'm really hoping that I'll be able to get back on track eventually. I feel like my filming and uploading schedule might be a little bit sporadic just because I don't have as much content planned out since I haven't really been reading as much. And I'm not even gonna lie to y'all, no cap, I have not read one single book for the month of June. Every single book that I told you guys that I was planning on reading, where are they? I have no idea. Like, I have not read a single book and I just have to charge it to the game. So I'm hoping that in July, because it is my birthday month, period, it's also Renaissance month I will be seeing Beyonce in 2 weeks time, thank the Lord, because I really need to hear Break My Soul live right now. But I really hope to be able to read more books in the month of July because, again, that's my birthday month. And self-care. I really appreciate you guys for continuing to engage with my content, like and subscribe. With all of that out of the way, and as you can tell by the title of the video, we are here to discuss the mid-year book freakout tag. So this is actually, I think, my first time doing this video. I have read some really great books, at least in the beginning of the year. I just can't wait to gush over them and talk about them with you guys like I do in my other videos, because these are just some of my favorite to film. There's nothing better than talking about your favorite books and trying to convince people to pick them up and give them a read. So I feel like you guys are probably already going to be familiar with most of the books on these lists because I can't shut up about them, but there are some books on here that I haven't really, I feel like, talked about more in depth or really dove deeper into. So I'm really excited to finally do that. So with all of that out of the way, let's get started. There are 13 questions here, and I don't have physical copies of all of these books. We're not going to get into it. So I will be popping up a picture of most, if not all, of these books up on the screen over here. I also don't know who the original creator for this tag is, so I'm so sorry that I'm not able to give proper credit, but I will at least leave the questions linked down below. So the first question here says, best book you've read so far in 2023. I feel like this one is easy. This one was honestly a no-brainer because you guys have heard me talk about this book in literally every single recent video, so it should be no surprise. But the book that I have here for this question is The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. Like, duh. I have a whole shrine dedicated to Zara and Rowan. I'm not going to get into my whole spiel that I always get into when it comes to these two in this book. Lauren Asher did her big one with that book. I don't know how the other books in the series, Terms and Conditions and Final Offer, fare. Really hope to read Terms and Conditions in July. If you are interested in learning more about my thoughts on this book as well as these two characters, then definitely check out my most recent videos. But we're going to move on to the second question. So the second question here says, best sequel you've read so far in 2023. I would have to say The Rebel King by Kennedy Ryan. This is actually the second book in the All Kingsmen duology, with the first book being The Kingmaker. It's endearing, it's captivating, and it's just so immersive, especially the sequel, The Rebel King. This is the book where you get the most action and you really get to see the romance between the two main characters, Lennox and Maxim, at full force. And I can't get enough of it, truly. I actually have a special edition of this book that I ordered from this like independent bookstore, and I even got an art print for this duology because that's how obsessed I am with it. I don't have it with me right now. The reason why I ordered it was because I just wanted the art print, and for some reason I'm becoming an art print girly. I don't know why, because I really don't have the space to display all of these, but that's okay. I'm going to try to find a little memento box so that way I can keep all of my art prints in there, because I just feel like these are such special things that you can have as a reader. If you have not read the All Kingsmen duology yet, what are you waiting for? You definitely need to read it, especially The Rebel King, because again, that's where you get the most action and the most substance and depth when it comes to Lennox and Maxim. The third question here says, new release you haven't read yet but want to. I haven't read a lot of books, so there are so many books that I actually want to read and get to, but I just haven't yet. But I have narrowed this down to at least two, so one for thrillers and one for romance. So the thriller that I really want to read is called She Started It by Sean Gilbert, not to be confused with He Started It by Samantha Down, which is a thriller that I have read and I definitely recommend. Going back to She Started It, definitely a whodunit murder type of mystery set in the summertime, specifically at a tropical resort, and I'm all here for that. I just love those tropes so much, especially because I love summer. It's everything I could ask for. Now, I am on Goodreads right now, and I see that the reviews for this book are not as high as I thought they would have been. This book is actually sitting at a 3.69. I'm still going to read it, especially because this was a book that I included in my most anticipated thriller releases of 2023 video. So I will be reading this, I just don't know when. Right here, the synopsis says, the party of a lifetime is nothing like what they expected. Annabelle, Esther, Tanya, and Chloe are BFFs, or were, as children. Despite drifting apart in adulthood, shared secrets have kept them bonded for better or for worse. even as their childhood dreams haven't quite turned out as they hoped. Then one day, they receive a wholly unexpected, but not entirely unwelcome invite from another old friend. Poppy Greer has invited them all to her extravagant bachelorette party, a first-class plane ticket to 3 days of white sand, cocktails, and relaxation on her luxe private island in the Bahamas. None of them has spoken to Poppy in years, but Poppy's IG pics show that the girl they used to consider the weakest link in their group has definitely made good and made money. Curiosity gets the better of them. Besides, who can turn down a posh, all-expenses-paid vacation on a Caribbean island? The first-class flight and the island's accommodations are just as opulent as expected, even if the scenic island proves more remote than they anticipated. Quite remote, in fact, with no cell service and no other guests. The women quickly discover they've underestimated Poppy and each other. The tropical adventure morphs into a terrifying nightmare. That just sounds so good. Like, need I say more? And I will let you guys know my thoughts whenever I do get around to it. And the second book that I am highly anticipating that is a romance book is Unfortunately Yours by Tessa Bailey. So this is actually the sequel in the companion series A Vine Mess. And the first book in this series is right here, and it is called Secretly Yours. I actually read this, when did I read this? In March, maybe? April? Child, I think it was March. I don't know if I ever gave a proper wrap up on this. I don't think I did. So I'm so sorry about that, y'all. But I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was camp. There were definitely some things about it that made me cringe, and I definitely was looking at Tessa Bailey a little bit suspect. I did give her a little bit of a side eye because some of the dialogue in here was very off-putting, but for the most part, I really did enjoy the story, and I really did enjoy the characters, more specifically Hallie. I thought that she was just such a fun, charismatic, kind character. Tessa Bailey does such a great job with the grumpy sunshine trope. So going back to the second book in the series, which is called Unfortunately Yours, I don't have that physically, but I'm hoping to get it soon. But I am really excited to read this one because it is enemies to lovers and marriage inconvenience. So again, two of my favorite tropes morphed into one. Can't ask for anything more. And when it comes to Tessa Bailey, you know that the steam and the smut is going to be next level. But this story actually follows two characters named Natalie and August. And Natalie and August actually appeared or make a cameo in Secretly Yours. Natalie is actually a Napa heiress, so her family does own, I think, a lot of wineries, and she's just really wealthy. And then on the flip side of that, you have her love interest named August, and August owns his own winery, but it's not something that he started. He actually took it over for his best friend who passed away. So August is essentially trying to keep this winery afloat, and he's having a difficult time doing it just because there's so much competition out there in Napa, obviously. So going back to Natalie, Natalie actually has to, I think, marry someone in order for her to get her inheritance. There's not really anybody that she finds suitable until she meets August, and her and August do not get off on the right foot until Natalie decides that August might be her best option for a husband, so that way she can get her inheritance, because he's not going to love her, she's not going to love him, so this is purely transactional. So Natalie proposes to August that they should get married because of this situation. August actually decides to take Natalie up on this offer because his winery is struggling and he could really use some extra cash. And so throughout the story, you follow Natalie and August being in this fake marriage until their feelings for one another start to become real. And so this just sounds like this is going to be really cute, a really good time. And I'm usually never disappointed with Tessa Bailey's book. She's one of my favorite rom-com authors. I know Tessa Bailey is a very polarizing author. You either really like her work or you don't. But for me personally, I've fell in love with the woman's books ever since I read and finished It Happened One Summer. I will always check for Tessa Bailey. Like, it does not matter. I will always check for her books because they're just like good comfort reads. I know exactly what I'm going to get. The fourth question is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. None of this is true by Lisa Jewell. So for my consistent viewers, you know how much I love me some Lisa Jewell. That is my girl, okay? When it comes to thrillers, ain't nobody seeing Lisa Jewell, ain't nobody touching her. But I don't really know too much about this. I think the synopsis might have just been released, at least while I was kind of taking a break from Booktube and Bookstagram. Right here it says, Lisa Jewell returns with a new psychological thriller about a woman who finds herself the subject of her own popular true crime podcast. Celebrating her 45th birthday at her local pub, popular podcaster Alex Summers crosses paths with an unassuming woman called Josie Fair. Josie, it turns out, is also celebrating her 45th birthday. They are, in fact, birthday twins. A few days later, Alex and Josie bump into each other again, this time outside Alex's children's school. Josie has been listening to Alex's podcast and thinks she might be an interesting subject for her series. She is, she tells Alex, on the cusp of great changes in her life. Josie's life appears to be strange and complicated, and although Alex finds her unsettling, she can't quite resist the temptation to keep making the podcast. Slowly, she starts to realize that Josie has been hiding some very dark secrets, and before she knows it, Josie has infiltrated her way into Alex's life and into her home. But as quickly as she arrived, Josie disappears. Only then does Alex discover that Josie has left a terrible and terrifying legacy in her wake, and that Alex has become the subject of her own true crime podcast, with her life and her family's life under mortal threat. Who is Josie Fair, and what has she done? Queen shit. That sounds so good. I can't wait. And of course, just like a lot of other thriller readers, I love when mixed media, especially like podcast elements, work their way into thrillers because it makes it so much more modern and fun, in my opinion. So I can't wait to see how this story turns out. And when it comes to Lisa Jewell, it's never what you think it is. So I just know that this book is going to put me through it, but I'm really excited. The 5th question here says, biggest disappointment. This is a question that I actually struggle with because I haven't read any disappointing books this year because, again, I haven't really read that many books. So I am going to have to cheat for this and probably a few others. Go with a book that I read last year that I still think about and think about how it had so much potential, but it fell completely flat. So the book that I have here is We Had to Remove This Post by Hannah Berkowitz. So this book, like I said, had so much potential, and I'm just so upset that it did not live up to the hype that I thought it was going to live up to. This is, I think, like a translated read. I forget which country this is translated from, but I think this is one of those translated reads. And I saw so many people talk about this on Bookstagram, which is why I picked it up. Specifically, I saw Haley from Haley Hughes talk about this book, and she hauled it in one of her videos, and so I decided to pick it up. I'm not sure if Haley enjoyed this book or not. I gotta ask her. This was a book that, like I said, I just did not enjoy all that much. So this story follows a woman named Kaylee, and Kaylee is actually a content moderator. Kaylee essentially sits at a computer and pretty much just scrolls through flagged posts day in and day out and has to determine if that post that was flagged had justifiable reasons to be flagged or if it shouldn't have been flagged. So you can imagine that Kaylee and her coworkers see the most depraved, disturbing, and sick and twisted, inhumane things on the planet. But that's not really the direction that the story is going to go in. It's not really focusing on the exact content that Kaylee and her coworkers see, but it more so focuses on the mental health and psychological impacts that this job can have on someone. Because throughout the story, you start to see that Kaylee's coworkers are starting to become indoctrinated into certain things that they're viewing. For example, some of them are flagging conspiracy theories and incel rhetoric and manosphere rhetoric and things like that. And some of her coworkers are actually becoming indoctrinated and starting to believe some of these things. So this story really is like a psychological thriller and analysis more so than like a true horror book. And that's not why I didn't really care for it. I felt like the author could have did so much more with the psychological aspect of it, and they just didn't go there, at least not in my opinion. I felt like it was kind of just a straight shot plot, and we were just kind of told these people work a fucked up job, so they're obviously going to get fucked up in the process, and that's it. Obviously, yes, we know that, but it's like, can we have a little bit more to go off? Can we have more showing versus telling, etc., etc.? So I just feel like this book did not live up to the potential that it could have, and it's really unfortunate because I was so excited to read this and it just fell flat. The 6th question here is biggest surprise. This is going to be another repeat. This book came out, what, like 1 or 2 years ago, so I definitely was late to the train, but I'm here now. I showed up, I pulled up, and I'm trying to get everybody else to read it because, hello. I never read anything by Lauren Asher before, and I didn't really know what type of romance book she wrote. I kind of had a feeling she was in the same breath as like Elle Kennedy, and I have a very complicated relationship with Elle Kennedy's books. I do. That's a topic for another day. We're not going to get into it, but just know that I thought she was going to be in the same sphere as Elle Kennedy. Really didn't feel like reading books that were similar to Elle Kennedy's books at that time. The Fine Print truly stands on its own. It's in its own league. That's the book that I have to say is the most surprising for me. I did not think that I was going to be as moved and emotionally compelled the way that I was after I finished The Fine Print. The 7th question here is favorite new author, debut or new to you? So I'm gonna have to give this to my girl Stacey Willingham. 2 books back to back that were hits for me. A Flicker in the Dark, which was her debut, and then All the Dangerous Things, which is her second and newest release. And I loved both of those books. I gave, I think, A Flicker in the Dark 5 stars, and I think I gave All the Dangerous Things 4.5. And the reason why I gave this book 4.5 stars is only because the main character, Isabel, she was very frustrating. And I love a good, complex, frustrating MC, especially a female MC, because, you know, women, we're so layered, so complex, and so many nuances to us. So I love when that is reflected in stories. But Isabel, there were so many moments where I was just very concerned because I did not know what she was talking about or what was going on in that head of hers. But she really did make an interesting character. I just was really frustrated by her throughout so much of the story. So I did have to give this a 4.5 to 5 stars. But either way, I still loved this book, and I loved A Flicker in the Dark. I definitely recommend giving Stacey Willingham a try. Pick up Stacey Willingham's books if you are interested in lyrical, slow burn mystery thrillers. Authors like Stacey Willingham sometimes have their books mismarketed, and people think that they're going to have these like fast-paced, twisty-turny thrillers, and while they might come out with those later on, that's not really where her books are, at least not in my opinion. I feel like they really are, like I said, the writing is very flowery and beautiful and poetic and very dark, and like the elements of the book itself are very dark, but it's not super like thrilling, like scary in your face type of plot, if that makes sense. At least, again, not in my opinion. I really enjoy those type of mystery thrillers to a certain extent, and I just have to give Stacey Willingham her 10s because All the Dangerous Things made her an auto-buy author for me. So shout out to her. Can't wait for the next release. The 8th question here says, newest fictional crush. So this is a complete no-brainer. Keenan from Hookshot. This book and this man, 10, 10, 10 across the board. Like, come on, I am obsessed with Keenan from Hookshot. And I said this already in my May wrap up, but I'm so happy that I can talk about my man again, because he is just so perfect. It's so true that women authors just know how to write men so well. They know exactly how to pull on your heartstrings. They know the right words to say, the right little gestures. Like, oh my gosh, I love when women write men characters because it's just like, yes, this is the dream. But no, seriously, going back to Keenan, obsessed. It's really because of how romantic he is. I loved the way that Keenan loved Lotus, but I also loved the way that he doted on my girl. Like, he was doting on her, okay? As he should. And I just love when there are books like this that have two black leads and they're just loved up, booed up. The struggle and the trauma isn't like the sole focus of their relationship and their union. It's a part of their story, but not their complete story. And even though Keenan was dealing with a lot personally, I loved how he was so sweet and caring and tender and romantic towards Lotus. He would write her little poems and like leave them kind of all over for her to find, and it was like their own personal thing, these poems. Like, it was something that they both shared, and I just loved how Keenan would use that to his advantage and just win Lotus over and sweep her off her feet. I also just loved how he would, of course, again, dote on her. He would send her flowers. He would do little things where he would like touch her intimately, not like that, but he would do little things like where he would like touch her hair, or he would like touch her face, or just like, you know, want to hold her hand. And it was just, it's so cute. It's so cute. As you guys can see, I'm getting so excited because he's the ultimate like book boyfriend. I have nothing else to say except for pick up Hookshot if you haven't read it yet. The 9th question is newest favorite character. I would have to say Lennox from the All Kingsman duology is one of my newest favorite characters. I just really loved how fearless and strong-willed and just brave Lennox was. I just really resonated with her in so many different ways, and I just wanted the best for her. And when we finally got to the end of the actual duology, it was just such a full circle moment. I felt like I knew both her and Maxim, but I truly felt like I got to know Lennox, and I felt like she was so real. But yeah, I really loved connecting with Lennox's character and just feeling all of the feels for her as if she was a real person. But I would have to say that she is like one of my newest favorite fictional characters. Number 10 says a book that made you cry. So this one is actually probably going to be a shock to some of y'all. Maybe not if you actually watch this reading vlog. Happy Place by Emily Henry. Yes, a book that is titled Happy Place actually made me cry. But it's not for the reasons that you think. As you can see here, I did tab this book up. Hopefully you guys can see it. I don't know. I know my light is bright. Y'all know I'm still trying to figure out the lighting in this room. Bear with me. But I did tab this book up because I actually read this book for a reading vlog that I will leave linked up above in the card somewhere, just in case you haven't checked it out yet. I'm not going to get into my full thoughts on this book because, again, I already did an entire reading vlog. But I will just say that this book made me reflect on so many different things when it comes to my own life, past and present and future and all of the things. So I really love the fact that this book not only focused on relationships and romantic love, but it also focused on friendships and platonic love and platonic relationships. I feel like there are not that many books or really forms of media that go into depth about how complex adult friendships are and how difficult it can be to maintain them. I just really like the fact that Emily Henry took the time to just speak to that. It also just spoke to just so many different things when it comes to your life, especially in your mid to late 20s. There were so many moments in here that I resonated with that really got me and like, again, made me tear up and choke up because of just how relatable and how real and raw it was, especially when it comes to not being sure of what you want to do in life and what you want your future to look like, your career, whatever the case is. I just really recommend this book for all of my mid to late 20s folks because this is one of those books that I feel like really speaks to a lot of our experience, and it's just nice to not feel alone in this regard. So yeah, I can't say enough great things about this book, but it did indeed make me cry. So the 11th question here says, a book that made you happy. I'm gonna have to go with Tokyo Dreaming by Miko Jean. I love this series, y'all. I've said this before in a few of my other videos, but Miko Jean will always have a fan out of me, okay? Like, I just think that the Tokyo Ever After series is just one of the best YA series, but also just one of the best series, period. I wish more people talked about it and it was pushed and promoted more, at least in my sphere of Booktube and Bookstagram. I wish I could see more promotion for it, but you know, it is what it is. Like, I'm just happy that I'm here. I have somewhat of a platform and I can talk about it because it's truly one of those like underrated gems, and I I can't say enough great things about it. Second book, Tokyo Dreaming, picks up right where we left off after Tokyo Ever After. So definitely make sure you read Tokyo Ever After first if you are interested in this series. But yeah, I can't say enough great things about it. I just think that it's a breath of fresh air. It's so light, it's so airy, so charismatic, and Izumi will always be one of my favorite female MCs. It really warmed my heart to see her transform and come into her own. There was so much growth from the first book. The second to last question, which is the 12th question, says, what is the most beautiful book you bought so far this year? So this is going to be another one where I cheat because I haven't really been buying that many books this year. As I've already said multiple times, I haven't really been reading that much, so that has definitely slowed down my book buying, which honestly is great for my wallet, but not great for me because I miss adding new books to my library. But it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. So I am, like I said, going to cheat for this one, but I still think that this is the most beautiful book that I own besides my special edition of Skin of the Sea. The craftsmanship that went into this book, the attention to detail, chef's kiss. The book that I'm referring to is my special edition of Babel by R.F. Kuang. So y'all, just look at this book. Like, once again, get into it. This is absolutely beautiful. Now ask me if I finished Babel. Absolutely not. I am still working my way through this book. I remember exactly where I left off, so I really need to pick this book up at some point because it makes no sense that I haven't finished this yet, but it is what it is. But y'all see that? Look at that attention to detail. Like I said, Fairy Loot did their big one with this, okay? Like, come on. Even the inside, like the flap, but also just like look at this. Also, don't mind my nails, y'all. I know they look crusty, just ignore, thank you. But right here you can see we have two of the characters that are featured in the story. We have Letty and V. I can never pronounce V's name. I think it's Victoire, it's like French, but I just call her V. But yeah, we have Letty and V here, and then right here we have Rami and then Robin. And Robin is actually the main character of this story. Tell me this is the most beautiful, stunning, dazzling, show-stopping book that you have ever seen in your life. Like, oh my gosh, it is absolutely beautiful. And then I also forgot to show you guys, I don't think I ever showed this actually, but this book is signed by R.F. Kuang right here. So I did get this secondhand off of Pango Books. I'm not gonna tell y'all how much it was, okay? Just know that this is the most I've ever spent on a book, but I don't really care because it's absolutely beautiful. And I'm really enjoying Babel, even though I have not finished it yet. I'm really hoping that I can finish it before the end of the year. But even though I haven't finished it yet, I'm really liking it. I've heard people say that this is a classic in the making, and I definitely can see that. I can. So yeah, I'll have to say that this is the most beautiful book that I own. And then the last question here, which is question 13, says, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? Child, all of them, okay? Like, come on, y'all already know I have to read literally all of the books that I talked about in every single TBR video and every single TBR that I have talked about in 2023. So we're not going to get into all of that. Just go watch my old videos if you are interested in knowing what books I still need to read, but all of them and then some, because there are so many new releases and there's just so many new books that get published every single day. And I can't take it, y'all. I can't take it. I cannot keep up sometimes. I don't have the motivation to read right now. I just don't. So I'm hoping, again, in July that'll change. But in June, y'all are not going to get a wrap up from me. I'm so sorry. So sorry, babes. I'm not going to be able to give you guys a June wrap up. But I will give you guys a July TBR because those videos are fun. Even if I don't read all of the books on that TBR, or Pile of Possibilities, as I like to call it, it's so fun, and we still had a great time chatting about books, right? So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, I appreciate all of you so much for just giving me grace and being patient with me as I work through what I'm working through right now. Definitely make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me my channel out. And lastly, please make sure you follow me on Bookstagram as well as Storygraph. I will leave all of that information linked down below, as well as at the end of the video like I always do. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!